Hello and welcome to Chatz, a television podcast, season 15, Chatz8. Each week on the show, we watch and discuss 2 episodes of the Netflix original series Sense8, except this week we're only talking about 1 for reasons. Hi everybody, my name is Alan, and I'm joined by the IT student who inexplicably allowed random kids to AirPlay their phone to Hernando's college course projector. It's Magellan. Why did you think that was a good idea?
I thought it would make the learning more interactive, more student-centered. I forgot about the network security settings. Sorry.
How many kids in this experiment put porn on the projector? Let's be honest.
Actually, more than were in the class. So.
Like people from other classes were AirPlaying it.
Yeah, people walking by in the hallway. Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. But it led to a great lesson, so you get the Medal of Honor for that one. Thanks, pal. Really appreciate you.
Teacher of the Year goes to AirPlay.
God. Dystopic future. Dystopic? Da Vinci?
The sad thing is there won't be any teachers to teach us which one's right.
Damn, true. What's going on, Magellan? What's new and exciting in your life, pal?
Oh, I don't know.
I know this is the hardest part of the podcast for us.
We're coming up on the holidays, and this episode kind of got me in the mood for it, which was nice. Excited to spend those holidays with the people I care about. That's going to be nice.
Like me?
Like you, like my girlfriend, my family.
Ooh.
Related to the podcast, Charlie.
Okay.
Friends, all sorts of people. What about you? What's new with you?
Oh, I had a lovely Thanksgiving. We're recording this after Thanksgiving, like a couple days after, several days after. I was at my parents' for 2 days. I've had a tumultuous couple of days, but like good tumultuous. And my semester's over in 3 weeks, so I will be grad school graduate Alan, baby. I have so many loans. Just kidding. I don't actually have that many loans because grad school is paid for partly by my work. Don't you just love private education? Isn't it such a beautiful little grift?
Oh, yeah.
It's stellar.
It's great.
No, I am really blessed that they pay for part of my schooling, but I mostly just really want to be done because I miss my Wednesday nights very much. I can watch wrestling and actually sleep at a reasonable time instead of go to lecture for 100 hours. Yeah. That's the main stuff going on in my life. But as you said, it is the holiday season, and with that brings a holiday special, specifically the Sense8 holiday special. Just like when we watched Better Off Ted, we finished right around the time of their reunion. We happened to be on Sense8 Season 2, Episode 1, right at the tip of the December holiday season. So this week on Chatz8, we watched Sense8 Season 2, Episode 1, Happy Fucking New Year. This was also known as the Sense8 Holiday Special before it was retroactively made Season 2, Episode 1. And it's a 2-hour episode. It was written by Lily and Lana Wachowski and J. Michael Straczynski. And it was directed by Lana Wachowski. Not the sisters, but just Lana this time. This episode aired December 23rd, 2016, so about a little less than 6 years ago. Magellan, can you tell the folks what happened in this one?
I would love to. By the way, I was going to ask you what your favorite holiday is, but then I remembered that years ago, we did our top 5 favorite holidays on our Patreon. So if you want to go back to our Chats Nights archive, Chats Nights 6 from October 21st, 2018. Old and crusty. Anyway, I'll tell you what happened in the holidays.
Patreon.com/chatspod, by the way. Sorry,
Patreon.com/chatspod. I'll give you the gist. So the journey continues as these 8 singular hearts and minds weave in and out of each other's lives, finding deeper connections, learning darker secrets about one another, and struggling to identify with more than just oneself.
Huh.
It's beautiful.
I love that.
So this aired a few months after the end of season 1. Is that right?
Yeah, we went from June 2015 to December 2016.
Oh, wow. Oh, a year and a half.
Yes. A year and a half break.
Mia. And then when does season 2, episode 2 come out?
I think it's March or April 2017.
17. Woo-wee! That's quite the break. So this must have been a real, I mean, that helps to contextualize, I think, some of the like rapturous bordering on self-indulgence that this episode puts forth in the best way possible. It's like these are all your very favorite best friends, and it feels like we're doing the beach episode plus a normal episode, and they're like weaving into each other almost.
Yeah, or like a holiday special as well.
Yeah. And so that explains, I think, part of that tone is like, hey, you haven't seen these characters in a year and a half. I bet you want to know what's been going on with them. And so we follow about 6 months worth of story time throughout the course of this episode. What did you think of it? Did you like it?
Yeah, this was the last Sense8 content that I watched. So I've never seen anything beyond this special. And I want to talk about that later with regards to like how it functions as a special and why they chose to fold it in to become season 2, episode 1. I like a lot about it. It's definitely not my favorite thing we've watched for Chatz8 so far. It has some of my favorite moments and scenes, but the problems are starting to mount up as they attempt to like recontextualize and refocus Sense8 into a new type of show in season 2. And I think some of that works really well, and some of it just, for me personally, does not. So mixed feelings on this. What about you?
This feels like a holiday special in the sense that it's super characterful and fun and thematic and like, gets you to think about who these people are and what their world is all about. And also, there isn't really a lot of stuff that happens. It's such a fascinating episode. I mean, I love it because very few shows, if any, ever do this type of thing where it's like, okay, we're going to show you 6 months and we're going to kind of not zoom through it in a way that feels fast, but we're going to go through it quickly, almost at the speed of how you would tell the story of your own life. Like if you wanted to update somebody on what you've been up to the past 6 months, you'd be like, well, my birthday, I did this, and then Thanksgiving, we did this and got married and all that. You would focus on the most eventful parts, and then you would feel like, wow, what a year. And you wouldn't talk about like, I don't know, the shits you took or whatever, unless they were particularly interesting. And so really, it's a really cool piece of storytelling because of how it approaches telling the story of that stretch of time for 8 characters. And it does a lot of character work, and I think puts on a gorgeous like a display of cinema.
Yes.
It feels like a collection of music videos, kind of, is what this episode is. But you could just not watch this, probably. And I'm sure you could jump into season 2, episode 2 and know exactly what's going on. Because, like, to a certain extent, this episode kind of just returns a lot of the characters to where they started, or, like, rehashes some of their character beats from season 1. Which, again, knowing that it came out a year and a half later makes sense, because it's like, okay, let's reorient people to the world. Let's reorient them to the characters. Let's get back into the groove of things. But it doesn't really shift the dynamic in any way, because anything that's different from season 1 was put into motion at the end of season 1. So in that sense, I think it's kind of a curious thing, because you'd expect a 2-hour special episode to really like do some shit, and it kind of doesn't, but I love that about it. So it's a hard feeling to put into words. All right, let's chat about the episode. Yeah,
let's do it.
Do you want to talk about this point here that I'm highlighting? I
do, yeah. So Magellan's referring to whether or not Sense8 is a jumping on point for new, if this specifically the holiday special is a jumping on point for the show. And I think it succeeds and fails for a couple reasons, which is why I said we should bring this up. Number one, this ties into our second point, which is that Capheus Onyango was recast. And from the research that I was able to do, Amal Amin, the actor who played the season 1 Capheus, left the show due to, quote, creative differences, primarily with Lana Wachowski.
Yeah, I saw the same thing.
isn't a ton of detail about that, although most people at this point suspect it might just have to do with like the content he was being asked to do, like nudity, sex scenes, stuff like that. Because he wasn't in the orgy scene in season 1, and it didn't seem like he would be comfortable with that stuff. But we don't know. He's never come out and made like a super official statement, but there was a lot of drama about this at the time. Like, for example, Jamie Clayton, who plays Nomi, was like, oh, she posted on Instagram that she's really excited for the recast. And people thought like, oh, is she mad because like Amal Amin was transphobic or something, and that's why Lana hated him? It's like, no, actually, she had to come out and say like, no, he was actually very nice. It's just that him and Lana like did not get along super well at a table read, and so they replaced him with a new guy, which I also bring up because not knowing who the original Capheus is might make this a little bit of an easier thing to watch, easier to pill to swallow. Because, like, you're just like, this is Capheus. If this is your first episode of Sense8, welcome to it. This is Capheus and Yongo. You're going to get more of him than we got of the other guy, actually. Which is, like, sad to realize. But
yeah,
it informs so much of how I feel about this episode that it almost, like, detracts from the special having watched season 1 in that specific way. Like, you're thinking about Capheus all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely really hard to get past. I think that's just true of any TV recast moment. It's like hanging over you the whole time, and they try to do these things where they hang a lampshade on it and say, oh, Capheus, you look different. Or at one point Kabaka's like, you don't believe a man can change, and you cut to this guy's face being a new guy. And stuff like that, where they draw attention to it because they have to, but it doesn't fix the fact that it's really distracting. And in a lot of ways, Capheus was like the heart of the ensemble in season 1. He was the character who always showed up and cheered people up. And this new guy is like great. I think we're going to see more of him, but he's playing Capheus a lot differently. He doesn't have that sort of cheeriness to him in the same way. He's a little more, he's just got like a more classic leading man sort of energy in his plot, and that doesn't quite feel interesting to me. So I was a little bummed about that as well.
It's an interesting casting thing too, because Amal Amin is British and American, or he's British, I believe. I don't know of what his descent is, but Toby Onwumere, who plays the new Capheus, is Nigerian and American. So, like, we're still not actually in the right country of Africa, technically. But, he plays the character well. And I think that the show does do a significant flattening of, like, different African identities. I think that, like, Kenya resembles the way we see a lot of, Africa in television and film in this show. We don't get a lot of like what specifically makes Kenya beyond like the use of buses as like primary transportation, but that's a big thing like everywhere. So like there are like choices and reasons to cast a different person beyond just like creative differences. The main thing I noticed with him, and I will pivot back to like how I feel like this fits as a pilot, but I wanted to talk about this too. He's playing a much more serious Capheus. They try to bring that childish wonder back when like the Van Damme is rebuilt and he's like, punching it and like punching the front of it. Like, yeah, Van Damme is here and he's so happy. He's with Jelly. He's having a great time, but it feels forced. And
super forced. Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't feel forced when he's serious, which maybe suggests to me that like, is Capheus's plot going to get a lot darker in this season? And so they needed an actor who could like play that. Because Amin could play like grinning on the in the airplane, like, oh my God, we're in India. Oh my God, what's London like? He, had that wonder and that childhood glee to him, childish glee. And this guy just doesn't have that. So I'm wondering, like, was part of the recast too, like, we just want a more serious Capheus? Because this guy does succeed in that, I guess.
Yeah. I think my last thought on the recast is related to what you said about the flattening of African identities that's happening in the plot and the way, like, if the guy playing Will Gorski left the show, would they have cast a different American white guy and said, hey, it's Will?
That's a good question, right? That's a very good point.
I don't know. Maybe. I guess we can't really argue counterfactuals like that, but
Yeah.
it just the mere fact that it's the African guy feels weird to me, because
we swapped in one
there's
African actor
already
for another one.
Yeah, just because there's already that kind of a thing going on in the actual way that the plot is presented to us, where it's like a little bit more anonymous and tropey. So I don't know. I think that's just like an unfortunate fact of the circumstances, as opposed to like anything deliberate, obviously, by the Wachowskis. I wouldn't put it on them, but the fact that the choice was to recast the character, I just wonder about that, and if that would have been the choice with any of the other Sense8s, or most of them, or some of them, or how would that?
Or which ones? And we know, like, they filmed some stuff with Amin, right? So they like wrote a plot for season 2 Capheus. It's not
True, yeah. So maybe that's part of it. Yeah,
it's not like he left before while they were writing it, and they were like, okay, great, we just write Capheus out. Sucks, but maybe we have him die in a sad way, like they did Fast and Furious style or something.
Right.
But no, they had like written it and created it, and so now they have to swap somebody in, or else they've wasted a ton of work. So
right,
it's
true.
I get how you get here, but I agree that like the optics of replacing your African actor with another African actor is like, well, are they the same?
Right.
They're like, their performances are really different. They're not close to each other.
Right.
Ultimately, that's the thing with the Capheus recast, is it's not close. He is probably doing his best, I'm sure, but if that's what you were trying to do, then you whiffed it. If you're doing something else, I'm interested. I want to see more of it. But
well, if I was in the new actor's position, I think that's a really interesting and challenging question of, and I think this is true of any time that there's a recast in a TV show, is do you try to replicate the characterization that's happened before you, or do you just say, I'm a different person, they're not going to believe that I'm this other person, so I'm going to lean into that and bring a new interpretation to the character. And it's not something we've seen a lot in Chats. The only example I can think of is when we watched Fire Walk with Me, and there was a different woman playing Donna than in the TV series, and in that case we kind of liked it because it was like Donna at an earlier stage in her life, so she's a bit more naive, and so this other person's performance fits the character's moment in her life a little bit better. Whereas here you're picking up Capheus right where we just left him. There's not really a narrative reason why he would be a little bit more serious. He just is, because you're a different guy. Exactly. So it's tough. I don't think there's a right approach. But I'm curious to see how it develops, and I'm sure as the season goes on, we'll be able to get past it a little bit, because there'll be a brand new plot that is written around this guy. Yeah.
I mean, like that moment, they spend the whole first scene not showing his face. Like, it's really played as a reveal. It's not like we're going to put him in and you're not going to think about it. It's, they know you're thinking about it, and we're going to just reference that as much as we can to kind of lampshade it.
They have the good sense to draw attention to it, because what else are you going to do?
If you don't say anything, then it's even more like surreal.
Yeah.
So that's the Capheus stuff. But I think to the original question of how does this function, that's a point against it if you, as like a continuation, but a point for it if you're watching this for the first time. I think that this is a fine Capheus. This is of this character. It's fine. And this episode does have a lot of the things that made season 1 great. It has like open queer sexuality. It has themes of like the greater meaning of love and how we're all connected to each other, but we're not all the same person, and the uniqueness of individuals. And it's filmed in different places. Like, it's got all the stuff. So in a way, it's a good one. However, just like season 1, whenever you dig into the overall plot, you realize, wait, am I in the middle of something? Whose whispers? We're already calling him that. We already, like, it misses a lot of the development that you need from season 1, which is, hey, why are we together? what does being together even mean? That kind of, and like setting the tables and the terminology, which I think this episode straight up doesn't do.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting episode to talk about, you know, how does it function in the sequence of all the episodes? Who should be watching it and how? Because like we've been saying, it's a really impressive but imperfect continuation of season 1. And it's a really impressive and imperfect jumping on point. I think it would be a fine jumping on point for someone who's like, oh, you're watching Sense8? Can I watch it with you? Oh yeah, sure. I'm just going to have to explain a couple things to you. Like that person would probably be fine, and they would immediately get to jump into the coolest stuff that Sense8 can offer, which is like, we're all fucking in a big pile, and now we're feeling emotions. We're everywhere, and it's amazing. Like, this episode is incredible for that, and I think has some of the very best Sense8 ass stuff that the show has done. And so in that sense, I think it's a great jumping on point, but you would need somebody sitting next to you saying, okay, so Sun's brother basically did this fucking thing where, you know, and okay, Whispers, so he's like a bad guy, but anyway.
You're like solving a puzzle if you're watching this having not seen stuff. You're spending the whole time going, okay, I think I get this. And you're missing what's good about this episode, which is the vibes, the music, the cinematography. Like you were saying earlier, Magellan, like plot-wise, not too much happens in this episode. Not like, not in terms of forwarding any sort of narrative.
Yeah. I think that the last thing I'll say about this jumping on point thing is I like asking this in the context of, say, when we were watching, I don't know, like Babylon 5 or something.
Yeah.
Because that was a show that was airing on television, and you conceivably were jumping on to a show at the beginning of a season. And that's like a commercial reality of a season pilot, is it has to be welcoming to new viewers. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're dooming yourself to only ever having fewer viewers than the previous season. But with Sense8, like, to what extent were people hopping on Netflix in 2016 and starting here versus binging up to here? You know what I mean? I wish I could see how it was presented on Netflix's UI at this time, to understand if it was being marketed as a separate episode special, you know.
To my recollection, it was exactly that. It was its own like launchable on Netflix called Sense8 Christmas Special, pretty much, or like a Sense8 Christmas.
So there's conceivably a world where it's like the banner on your Netflix landing page. Watch the Sense8 special. That's interesting to me, because then it does have to fill this role or this goal.
Mm-hmm. Sense8 a Christmas special is what it was called, and also like the trailers were called that and everything. So yeah, there's a theoretical world where you watch this first.
What a weird thing! Like, so little of it is Christmas.
It's Christmas in the last like 10 minutes, and it's extremely Christmas. It goes from like not at all Christmas to like 300% we fell on the Christmas meter.
Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted more Christmas stuff. That's another one of my complaints about this episode.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just let's talk about the plots. My favorite plot is in my favorite other point that's in our outline here is contained in Nomi's plotline. So maybe we could start with that one, and then we could play like a ping pong back and forth thing.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful just to set the stage. Where is every single character in this episode? And then if you want to then talk about Nomi's in depth first, we could do that. So we'll just go back and forth, shirts and skins, picking our Sense8s for our team and explain what's going on with them. I can go first. So Capheus we've talked about already to some length. Capheus's plot is a little circular because he's hanging out with Jella. The Van Dam breaks down. he gets a new Van Damme. He's driving the Van Damme around. He's talking to Kabaka, who's like, I'm a cool guy now. I'm going to make good medicine and not bad medicine or drugs type stuff. And that's kind of what Capheus is doing. And then he watches It's a Wonderful Life with his mom, and that's nice.
Merry Christmas.
But that's what's going on with him.
I'll take Kala. Kala is having some hesitation in her new marriage with Rajan because she is a virgin, and Rajan learns this from her mother, which frustrates her greatly because she feels like it's an invasion of her privacy and like she's being objectified, and not even to her face, but via her family, which is like a complicated issue. At the same time, she still has feelings for Wolfgang, even though he's like practically pushing her away by now. And the apex of her scenes involves her having, her first time having sex with Rajan on their vacation in Italy. But Wolfgang is having sex at the same time over in Germany, which causes her to get distracted, fall over Rajan, which causes him to have a severe penile injury, which gets him into the hospital. He's okay. He just needs, apparently the doctor is just like, love will fix it, dude. You're good. And they continue to have like some romantic stuff as Wolfgang hovers in the background.
I'll do Wolfgang. So the only other stuff, he has a lot of interactions with Kala. He's clearly still got feelings for her and wants to be around her. And the other thing we're doing is rebooting the Berlin crime syndicate stuff by saying, oh, his uncle wasn't the only crime boss. He was one of 4. And now there's a new German bad guy. And everybody wants a piece of Wolfgang, and they want him to be a crime boss, and he doesn't want to. And the nice thing, actually, is Felix is awake again.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those things in this episode that brings us back to the initial reality of season 1. Felix just wakes up because now it's time to feel like season 1 again, which is interesting and a little strange. And I wonder thematically if that's intentional, if that's kind of about, since so much of this episode is about the passage of a year, if we're kind of doing this thing about like things are changing, but we're also circling back around to the beginning of a new year. Like in some ways the new year's new, but in some ways it's a repetition of a cycle of the year, I don't know. Maybe that's giving the show too much credit and they just wanted everybody to be hanging out again, but
no, I think
a weird thing.
I agree, though. I think that they're resetting some plots because they realize they can't do anything else with them. Like there's only so much we can do with Steiner and Steiner's extended family. We can keep fighting them. Steiner's mom comes up to Wolfgang at one point and is like, there's these 5 kingdoms, and it's like it's such a video game ass style plot of like you beat the one boss and now there's 5 bosses.
Right. It's like new game plus or whatever.
Exactly. It feels like a new game plus thing. So that covers Wolfgang. Lito Rodriguez is still out and about with Daniela and his boyfriend Hernando. The public is now realizing that he's gay, and some people shun him for it, like his agent and publicist, who don't know if he should make a big public deal about it. But he wants to because he's proud of himself. And he gets harassed by the paparazzi for this. He's also evicted from his apartment for this in a really frustrating and sad scene. And so even though he breaks back in, he realizes that all his stuff has been stolen when he was evicted. So Mr. Sicaro is not the nice guy anymore, even though Wolfgang manages to step in with some of that, like breaking in stuff. And he, the holiday season is coming up as we jump forward, and he's worried about his mom knowing about this whole thing. He doesn't know if she's accepting. He finally goes home to her with Hernando and Daniela, and lo and behold, it's a nice show and meant to make you feel nice. And his mom is totally into it. She keeps clippings of him all over the place. So even though Hernando's getting harassed at college and Lita is getting harassed everywhere all the time, we can have a nice Christmas with our accepting mom. Yay. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Sun is still in prison. She she meets with a series of lawyers who are either trying to help her or are assassins sent by her brother to kill her. that's a lot of what is going on. And then she has a handful of nice interactions with other characters that I think, we'll talk more about later. But in terms of plot, she's still in prison, but has a lot of character development. And she's like being written to be a little more fun. Some more jokes in her.
She doesn't wear pants anymore. She's like Winnie the Pooh style in prison.
I was like, what the hell is going on? Why all of a sudden is this a season where she doesn't wear pants?
I love it.
Anyway.
And not in a weird way, you guys. I love it because it means she can do cooler kicks. That's why, you weirdos.
Right.
Will and Riley are kind of a pair, so I can just knock them both out.
Yeah.
They're completely together in this episode all the time in Iceland, hiding out from Whispers, doing a lot of heroin, and Will growing a really unfortunate beard in the meantime. I felt mixed about it, but I want to talk more about it later. He's doing heroin because it helps him block out the Whispers visions, but Angelica keeps giving him visions being like, what I did to get rid of Whispers was I killed myself. And although he considers that, Riley manages to continue to pull him away from doing that. He ends up turning the tables on Whispers and interrogating him like, hey, you're a real person too. I bet you, if I look into you, I can figure you out. Oh, you have a daughter? You're on a bridge? I know where that bridge is. I think I might be able to pinpoint you. And his main goal is to start pursuing Whispers, as Riley is kind of relegated to just being like, no, Will, don't. I love you. And they like do sex and stuff. But one day she wants to take him out for Christmas, and she blindfolds him and opens it up in front of an ice skating rink, which he learns how to skate because she knows how to skate. And then in the big Christmas climax, he sees Whispers, and it's like, oh, fuck, what the hell? And it turns out that Whispers has been getting Will's dad back into drinking, despite him being in AA for a long time, and also basically has Will's dad's life in his hands. So the stakes are increased as now Will needs to pursue and, per his words, absolutely fucking kill Whispers, because don't mess with his dad. Don't mess with Joey Pants, basically.
Yeah. So the last plot, and this is the first one that we'll dive into in more specific depth, is Nomi's. So she continues to be on the run from the feds. Is this still because of the medical stuff in season 1, or is she in trouble for some of the other stuff she did helping out the cluster?
I think it's mostly the season 1 stuff still. They don't specify.
So Nomi's on the run from some kind of federal agent guy who's sort of a Agent Smith knockoff type.
Hilarious that it's just Agent Smith, yes.
Yeah. Amanita is helping her to hide. They are mostly able to function through their normal life, even though they're having to hide out in various shelters or with family, things like that, with friends, who we'll talk about one of them in a second. And there's just a lot of like nice times between the two of them, still remaining deeply in love. It's a feel good plot, despite the fact that we're also having to make sure that the feds don't find us, kind of thing. Yeah,
we meet more of him and his family. Bug comes back because he has no one else to spend Christmas with.
Bug.
Christmas. Every time I see Bug, I get more into Bug. I've learned to love Bug.
And you want to talk about something that Bug talks about, yeah?
Yeah, really crucial scene in terms of like, this episode is not just all fluff and fun. It seems like they're setting up a new thematic idea for us to consider with the Sense8s, which is that, so Bug, it serves the role of many queer people on the internet, and many people on the internet, especially in the 2010s and onward, in that the majority of his like significant friendships and relationships are on the internet because he's a hacker. He's got his hacker communities. It's 2016, so he might still be in some IRC chats. He's probably on a lot of forums. I don't think Discord's really big yet, but that's where he would eventually presumably migrate to. And he's not used. There's like a couple of like boomer moments in this episode where like, Hernando is like trying to teach a class and everyone's on their phone. And it's like, are you making a joke about people like being overly connected to technology? But that ends up being more that they're looking at naked pictures of him. In this case, no, we don't judge Bug. He just doesn't have anyone IRL to spend Christmas with. He was just going to sit on the group chats and say Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to people. And Nomi and Amanita are like, well, you have a family here, and they take him to Amanita's family for Christmas. And I think that their show is finally coming out and saying that part of what being a Sense8 is like is what it is to be on the internet in 2016.
Yeah.
And like, let's emphasize that's December of 2016, a really tumultuous time to be on the internet, but a time where having that connection is really valuable and making you feel connected and able to empathize with people who live thousands of miles away, who feel like your best friend. If you have ever been Twitter mutuals with somebody in a different country, or Tumblr buddies and DM pals with someone, what Bug is going through here, and that feeling that like these people matter as much to me as the people in my periphery, but I have never met them and I don't plan to. It's a really, at least in 2016, it's a really new concept. Like, I've had therapists and like adults incredulously look at me when I tell them that like a lot of my friendships are on the internet, because it's just hard to process, right? It seems weird, but what I love about this, and my final point, is that the show isn't judging it. For once, we're getting a show that's like, yeah, people just do that. That's not better or worse than being a Sense8. It's pretty much the same, actually. And I really like that.
Yeah, I even like, there's a moment where Bug is going to judge himself, and he says, Verts, I don't really know him. And then he kind of stops himself, and he's like, actually, I know them really well. They're my friends, and they know me better than like anybody does. It's just that I haven't spent time with them in person. And I think that's like a really beautiful and accessible way to think about what does it mean to be a Sense8, is this sort of bizarre feeling, really, in the scope of human emotions, of being like, you are a text box in a forum or a group chat, or you are a voice on a call, and like, you are a really important person to me, and you've helped me process challenging moments, or you've like understood a part of who I am that people in my physical vicinity don't understand, or things like that. I just don't know what you look like, or I do, but only from a front-facing camera view. I can't really conceptualize how tall you are, stuff like that. And I think that is not a metaphor for Sense8ness that I'd considered, but it's definitely a cool one, and it's something to think about as the season goes on.
The Wachowskis got on Twitter, right? Or at least Lana did, in a big way. And post-election, a lot of people are being radicalized by Twitter and the internet. And I myself like felt a kinship with Bug here. Like, yeah, there are like things about my identity that I have never explained to somebody in real life that feel almost fake because I've never said them out loud, but I've written them and truly believed them late at night on a group chat. Because like, and that's me too. That's real people I'm talking to. And that's really hard to process for a lot of us, because we grew up on 90s media, especially that's like, the internet's like where you can be, it just made it seem like this wasn't real. Like these friendships are somehow less than or less valuable than the physical ones. And there's an argument to be made there, but they're still valid.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the like kind of harmful comedy of, late 90s, early mid 2000s media about internet interactions is like, actually that person is totally different than how they're presenting themselves to you, and like they're lying to you, that kind of thing, which certainly happens. But I think what's cool about this is how it's getting at the intimacy and like the vulnerability and honesty that kind of relationship can have, when there may not be like a physical closeness, but there's also not physical separation. You're inviting someone directly into your brain, kind of, and there's something really interesting to that.
Yeah, the relationship between the Sense8s this episode has strengthened. They feel more comfortable with each other. They call each other by their names more than they ever did, and it's useful to have this Bug scene in the middle of the episode or towards the end to be like, hey, like I Alan have talked on this podcast about like, okay, does being a Sense8 feel like something attainable? And if so, where is it attainable? Where does that feeling of connection come from for the average person? Because we can't have the sort of real magical hybrid mind that they have. But we can have online friendships. We can deeply, intimately empathize with someone across the world. Yes. And it's on the internet. So I liked it. I'm a bug respecter now.
Yeah, me too.
Other things from the Nomi plot, I really liked seeing Amanita's family. It was kind of cool being like, oh my god, there's like, first of all, more people of color, not just in India or in in Kenya. That's exciting. I liked I loved like them hiding from Agent Smith guy. I had a note, by the way. So Amanita works at a bookstore, and local San Franciscans will recognize the signage that she works at City Lights, which I've been to. I went on my trip to San Francisco. I've stood right where she stood and talking to Agent Smith in that episode. And I bought books from there. I bought Slaughterhouse-5 and another book from there. So like, again, they're doing the right work when it matters for San Francisco. But just like the women's shelter and the whole, like the unspoken anxiety about like, oh, do we, does the owner of this place like give up Nomi and Amanita at the risk of losing the shelter? And they're like, no, there's more important people here that need to like live and survive here. And they're like little hidden dresser cupboard. I thought that was all really good stuff.
Yeah, I really like the way that this plot maps out those different spaces and demonstrates, and has been doing this throughout season 1, demonstrates like the different ways that solidarity manifests in the community that Amanita and Nomi are a part of. And it just feels like when we're visiting with them, we're in a world that's like maybe not the world that other shows are traditionally depicting, but it feels real and like thoroughly so, in contrast with some of the other environments that we're in the show that feel a little more shallow, because there just isn't that thorough of a sense of like the different types of characters who are here and how they treat each other in the different spaces that they move in and that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of good setting work happening in Nomi's plot. And I like that Amanita. Oh, sorry. I like that Amanita is like more centered in this. It feels like this episode, especially at the top, does some work trying to put the broader ensemble in the middle of the plots. Like, we spend a lot of time with Amanita or with Hernando at the beginning of the episode before we really spend as much time with their significant others, which is, I think, a good choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, Leto's plot starting with Hernando fully, like not
Leto's not in it yet. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And then it turns out, plot twist, he was sitting in class the whole time, or like walked in at the end. Kind of goofy.
Yeah.
I was going to say? No, I was going to say that honestly, there are so many scenes. This is such a dense 2-hour thing that like, I don't think we can realistically hit everything here. So I was going to ask you if you just had some like highlights that you specifically wanted to shout out, because we could be here for like another 2 hours if we wanted to hit all of the stuff in our notes.
The standout thing to me about this episode, and I kind of joked about it before, is the musical montages. This episode is really a reflection on celebration, the different things that we celebrate, the different ways that we celebrate, and the different ways that people feel about particular celebrations. Because we have like the Sense8's birthday, and the birthday sequence is stellar. It kind of kicks off with Riley and Will listening in on all the different music that everybody's hearing in their different lives, and how it feels like a radio station that's changing songs.
Yeah, I love that.
And then we have this fucking montage that's like 8 montages in a row of different music swapping between each other. And each part of it is a different mood. And one of those is like just the most beautiful orgy you've ever seen in your life. It's like a sculpture in a museum or something. So
It's
that's
top
in there.
top 3 beautiful orgies that I've seen in my life. But please go on.
Damn. That's number
1. The end of Evangelion.
Wow. I guess, yeah, the Human Instrumentality Project is, in a way, the greatest orgy of all.
Yuck. I'm so fucked up.
So there's that, and then we have, I guess we skip Halloween. We don't get a Halloween sequence. That kind of sucks. But we do get a Thanksgiving, which is, I'd rather have a Halloween. We get a Christmas. We get a New Year's. So we get all these different musical montages that are pretty fun and that I thought were really probably the highlight of the episode. Did you have any bits from those, any of the various like full group montages that really stuck out to you?
The music for sure. The use of 2010s EDM. We're talking Avicii. We're talking Steve Aoki. We're talking all of the hits in this episode. I felt like I was in 2016 again. It was like weirdly nostalgic for me.
There's this fucking moment in the birthday montage where Riley is shaving Will's beard in the tub, and the song "Home Will Go" starts, and it's who is that by? I'm looking it up right now. It was the most 2010s ass, like thunk thunk thunk, or the drums in the background, and people are like, "Yeah, hey,
yeah, might as well be the Lumineers or something."
Doing, "Walk Off the Earth" is the band's name.
Yes.
2015 song. It felt so much like all the radio hits in college that I was like, stop playing this song. I'm done with it.
That's the Steve Aoki and Walk Off the Earth. Yeah, that's why. The production is very like 2010s EDM as fuck.
Oh, okay.
Rules. I liked, I think the music was the standard in all the group scenes, the rapid cutting, and like, God, this must have all been hard to film. You know, the orgy, of course.
Oh my God, yeah.
Is like exhausting and happening in multiple places and multiple partners. It's more than 8 people. It's like every actor plus all of their partners, so that's at least like 12 people. And then the dance scenes are like, I don't know how many takes that took. They all look so natural and like they're having real fun with each other. Like I struggle to believe that this is like take 100 because it feels so like we just put a camera in a nightclub and told these hot people to dance. It makes the like 2022 judgmental part of me a little bit like twinge a little bit because it reminds me that like everyone on Sense8 is hot. And it really does fail the thesis that this is like 8 random people, 8 random 27-year-olds, because like everyone's good looking, nobody's fat, like, and technically because the way we're watching it, everybody speaks English. Like this is an orgy of hot people that's like titillating because we like to see hot people on TV, but like there are different types of bodies that constitute beautiful and attractive, and I don't mean to be that person. And it's a show for Hollywood, but like these are just like, I don't know. It felt kind of flat at some point. And I'm here for a fun orgy scene. But I just have different standards now. And that's kind of like the time difference from when I watched this and I was like, I might be gay, to now I'm like, where's the fat people? God damn it, we're hot too.
Yeah. I think that's a totally fair critique.
Like sometimes when I bring the modern critique, I just feel like I'm being like a stick in the mud, but like it's real. It's a real feelings. I'm not going to deny them and not pretend they're not happening in my head.
Yeah, I think maybe the valid critique is like, okay. I mean, I think that's a valid critique, and I think another way to frame it is also Sense8 kicked open the door to be like, we can have 8 traditionally attractive people in a sex pile on Netflix, and like we can zoom in on the 2 guys kissing and like, here we are. Now what else does everybody else got? And everybody else was like, well, we're going to do a new Captain America movie pretty soon. It's just like
different era.
You know, nobody followed Sense8 really to build on what it did. So I think the critique is what you're saying. And also in 2022, it's 6 years later. Why has nobody else, you know, done the next step of this kind of thing?
Yeah, give me more of this nonsense.
Yeah, give me way more of this. Yeah, and I think I kind of added this. We were texting about this earlier, and I sort of added this on to your point there. And I think it's a similar thing of like, it's the 2022 critique, but like the picture of Leto and Hernando having sex and the way that it's responded to, and Nomi and Amanita being like, why can't the world see that this is so beautiful? And I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, these are two very square-jawed, chiseled men having sex with each other. Yes, I can see how that is nice. It's like kind of a weird, it's not a straw man necessarily, but you know, I think
straw
that
twink.
It's I think that's part of the same critique, right? Of like,
Yes.
in 2016 this was a groundbreaking thing, and I think we can recognize it as such, and I think we can also bemoan the fact that it took until 2016 for this to break ground, and that we have not broken deeper ground since then.
2016 was a weird year. We're going to keep saying it. We're going to say it for the rest of our goddamn lives. But
yeah,
some things changed. Some things kind of went on pause for a while. People were maybe afraid to tell stories like this for a little while.
Yeah.
And we're just now getting back to that comfort. So who could say?
Very true. Very true.
I'm at this point just bolding my favorite moments.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach to it.
Just give you the ones that I like. We've talked a lot about the orgy, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a moment that I like. I think the moment I was the most critical of that I wanted to get your thoughts on before, we gush about some of the other parts of this. Because I think my experience of this episode was, it was great. And there was a lot of it that I really liked. But one of the moments that I was more critical on, or just like kind of uncertain about, is in Leto's plot, his sexuality becomes public information, public knowledge. And as we said, we have the amazing scene where Hernando dunks on his homophobic student and says the line, art is love made public, which is such a beautiful thing to say. And then Nomi and Leto have this great conversation where Leto's like, hey, I'm feeling a little nervous, and says, why is it that when I feel scared I end up with you, which is a great line for Leto to say to Nomi. And then we get into, Leto's like, Nomi, when you came out, did you have to deal with anything like this? Boom, cameras flash, we're in the limousine, and with Hernando and Danny. And then we start doing this sequence where we're intercutting the different Sense8s, and we're mainly focusing on Leto getting really upset at seeing someone has graffitied the F slur on like a wall somewhere or something. And we're cutting between that and Kala getting mad at Rajan, that Rajan asked her dad or her mom if she's a virgin. And then we cut and Kala sees the word as virgin. Riley sees the word slut. Will sees the word pig. Like, what did you think about this sequence? It felt weird to me. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it.
It's my least favorite scene in that whole episode.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about like there's interesting disasters, which is like the prime Chatz fodder, and then there is boring, which is like the worst kind of thing, and then there is like you tried something, you had a little bit of fun with it, and I think you went way too far in the direction of, guys, do you get it? We all feel judged. We all feel hated. Like this scene can entirely be excised, and we could extend the Kala conversation with her husband, where she's like, I have the same mind as these 7 other people, who have all of these problems. They all feel trapped despite not being trapped. They all feel, beholden to society's whims, which is true. All of them have that. So then why do this whole thing with the car and the slurs and all of this? It's like that the point where the Christmas special started to lose me was just when it felt like really overdone. And like, guys, I do get it. These people are hated by a lot of society, except they're also all really hot. Like you're trying to convince me that like this sucks and it sucks to be them. And I agree it does. But like, this just felt like a little bit much to me. Maybe I'm getting more jaded. Maybe season 2 is going to get me jaded on Sense8. Is that bad?
It also, to me, just felt, the politics of it felt so weird, because I think especially choosing for the people in the car to be Leto seeing the F slur, and then a couple people later it's Will seeing that same spot and it says pig.
What are you saying?
And it's like,
gay people, cops, we're all minorities.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. And there's definitely a case to be made for, we don't want to say that one person's trauma is worse than another's, or I don't know. That becomes obviously very tricky territory, abstractly speaking. Mm-hmm. And I think the episode is trying to get us to think about, like, we could arrive at the same emotions through different things, but I think it's a real whiff when you do something like that. Because it's like, I don't care if Will gets sad when people call him a pig. That is not the same thing as the word that Leto saw at all.
Not
like, we're in a different
close
ball game right now. So that was the part that I was the most critical of. But otherwise, I thought that the episode did the intercutting in a really fun and compelling way for me.
I wanted to continue to highlight that Kala scene, because it does exactly what you're talking about much better to me. Because
her like speech to Rajan, where she's trying to explain how she's feeling.
Yeah, and like the deliberate choice to not have her be like, okay, there are 7 people in my brain, and they are all from different points of the world. It's like what she says instead, and I'll probably drop it in here.
What's trapping you?
If I were to try and explain it to you, you would think I'm actually crazier than I sound.
Try me.
Okay. Okay, fine. For starters, there are people that I feel connected to all over the world that are innocent, and yet they're locked up in prison. And they are trapped by circumstance or by things that have happened in the past. And then there are people without the privilege that we have, and they feel threatened because they love a person who the world has decided that they shouldn't love. It's wrong. It's terrible.
Kala, I think I know what's going on.
And it's like way more poetic than her just being like multiple points in this episode, people think, should I tell my loved ones like what's going on? And they try to, but the truth is, like, you can't just say that. It doesn't track for them to say, like, there's 7 people in my brain. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to them, nor does it make sense to another person. So instead we hear all their different interpretations, like Capheus like explaining Sun as a sort of spirit when Jella asks him who taught him martial arts. And he says, oh, the spirit of a South Korean woman, but she's a business lady. Like, that makes much more sense in his cultural context than saying the truth that we understand. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, I like that stuff definitely. A lot more. I like hearing them explain what Sense8-ness is like.
Yeah. And also see the scenes where they can't. Like this, I think one of the more affecting moments, or one of several affecting moments for me, is when Will calls his dad, and his dad just gets pissed at him for not being around, and Will can't explain the situation to him at all.
Right, because the situation's even weirder.
Yeah, and because it is tied to this previous moment where he was seeing or hearing what's her face, Sarah Petrell as a kid, and so he was put into therapy for it, and there's a lot more baggage, and his dad is clearly not the most emotionally intelligent, communicative guy. So it's interesting to see that too, of like, where does communication break down, or where are there the kind of barriers between us and the people we love and the experiences we're able to explain to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the value of trying to explain your experience to someone else, or saying, hey, I like Bug explaining to Nomi and Amanita that he has friends who he cares about, who he's never met. He's doing the same thing once again.
Right.
And that's why that leads to like some of my favorite stuff in Sense8 overall, which is the Sense8s explaining things to each other. Like in this episode before the orgy scene, we get Kala, nervous about having sex for the first time at 28 years old or whatever. And Sun, of all people, is the one who she talks to in her cell. Yeah. And this wonderful like little flashback. By the way, impressive that they made Duna Bay look 17 years old here. I don't know what makeup wizardry they did, but we see Sun in a martial arts competition that she wins, and her dad watched, but he still doesn't approve, even though she won. And the guy that she beat kind of like comes up to her in the locker room and says, "I'm really happy to have fought you." And that's when she had sex for the first time. And she says the line, "We exist because of sex. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something of honor to enjoy." Cut to gratuitous 8-person orgy. And I think the show is trying to tell us like we can learn the things that make us the most afraid. We can just learn. Other people have done it, experienced it. They've been afraid of it too, whether it's in the past by studying history or in the present by going on the internet or reading what people think or going into your community and asking about these things. Like sex in particular is such a good example of that, of how we pull from shared experience, because especially in like Western society, we don't talk about sex in a way where like not necessarily everybody learns how to physically do it or what's good and bad about it or why it's important to society that we can still do it. We're kind of taught it in private and not asked to talk about it, which is like really bad, because then you end up in a college situation where you're a grown adult and you don't know what it is because no one talks about it. Like, I think that the show is finally making a case for why it's so sexy and horny, is like, these are things that we're told to suppress, and it's really useful if you see other people do it sometimes, because then you realize, oh, it's not that weird. I really, really liked all of that. I'm just a big Kala fan. We'll talk about ranking the Sense8s later, but I think she got a lot of the emotional weight out of this episode, to be honest with you.
I think so too. I think of all the characters who had character growth in this episode, or went through character change, I think Kala is up there, and Sun probably are the two, and Leto. Yeah. Those three, I think, have the most like transformative experience in this episode.
Well, Rajan's dick is transformed because he breaks it in half.
That Italian doctor is a clown. King, what a character! Yeah, total king. Oh boy, honeymoon, huh? Yeesh. Oh, have fun, buddy. See you later.
He's like, we did have fun. That's the problem. He's like, oh, I mean, she still loves you. Like, it's not broken, probably. What? Yeah, it's not. Is it broken? I don't know. Maybe. Fucking, I don't know. It's like, you're the doctor.
Yeah. See you later. He just leaves. Pretty funny. Also, yeah, I don't know. We don't have. Let's save a deeper version of this conversation for later. Just returning to the critique that you mentioned before of Rajan and like the trope of always going with the white guy instead of but it's just like kind of hilarious how much of a wife guy he is in this episode. The moment where he sees her in the lingerie and shouts, "My wife!
My wife!" King!
Like, dude, come on.
We respect funny. Rajan here at Chats.
He's very cute in this episode, and it seems like Kala has some genuine sentiment and feeling for him. I don't know. It's sort of hard to parse.
That's why the thing about her virginity bothers her so much. Is like, don't we have good communication? Don't we talk to each other? Why did you ask my mom? That's really personal. She says, it made me feel like property. It made me feel like you were like trading cattle with my mom. You don't ask her that shit. My roommate was like, why is that such a big deal? I'm like, imagine if somebody asked your mom if you've had sex before. They didn't ask you, like your girlfriend asked your mom. It's like, oh, it just feels awful. And that's like your husband, dude. So I super get why she like felt that way.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I really liked their plot, and I liked that it had some humor to it. I liked the comedy of the scene where she's trying to have sex with him for the first time, and Wolfgang's right there just totally
plowing a girl.
Yeah.
Having a great time. And she's like, can you leave? And he's like, no.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
A little silly that Amanita and Nomi are talking about having a sex nick.
Ugh.
for Nomi's birthday.
They're just
Come on
cringe
now.
enough that they would say that, but like that's pretty cringe, y'all. That's pretty cringe.
Also, where are they that they're having this sex nick in broad daylight in the middle of San Francisco?
Dolores
and
Park?
And Nomi's a fugitive. Doesn't quite make sense. But sure, why not?
Public nudity, San Francisco. I shouldn't Google this on my computer, but I'm doing it. Not unusual to see public nudity. 7 places where you can take it all off in San Francisco. Okay, let me see if Dolores Park is on here. Scroll. It's not. Although I literally have real life friends, not the one that I went to San Francisco with, but I have other real life friends who have lived in San Francisco and have been naked in Dolores Park. So believe it or not, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this happens.
All right.
Maybe like sex in public is weird. And also, yeah, she is a fugitive. That's bananas. But the show doesn't have any interest in addressing that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I had a quick hit about Sun.
Yeah.
I'm sure this was in your notes too, but just like the repeated lawyers that come in and they're like, hello, Sun, I'm your lawyer. What happened to the last lawyer? Well, he fucking died. I mean, sorry, he disappeared mysteriously. We don't know what happened to him. I'm your new lawyer. I think you should do this. I think you should subpoena your brother. I think this. And the last guy, she's like, okay, what do you want me to do? And all of the Sense8s are like, he's lying. Fuck that guy. He's going to fight you. And she gets to have this like great, like egged on by her peers, gets to beat the crap out of several dudes with like a taser and a gun and a baton and all this stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah. There are a couple of those moments. She has Will like gets her out of the handcuff and then she uses the handcuff like a nunchuck or something. It's so cool.
It's the thickest, chunkiest handcuff I've ever seen. It's like a combat handcuff. I love it.
Yeah. And then there's that fight, and then there's the fight that Wolfgang does later with everybody's help, which is also great. And Sun is like, calm down or breathe or something, and then she beats everybody up. So good. Yes. What a fun show.
What a fun show. This is just fun. The Christmas special is fun. What can I tell you?
Yeah. I had a question. How did you feel? We've been dismissive of the like, for lack of a better word, main plot of the show, or the lore of it or whatever. We get a lot more whispers in this one. He's grilling Will grills him back. We get some talks with Jonas. There's a scene with Jonas where we learn like 5 different quick facts, which
several proper nouns.
I can just share real quick.
Yeah.
So we're talking to Jonas. We're talking about Angelica and about Whispers and spying on Whispers hanging out with his daughter. So we learn the following information. Whispers has a daughter and a family. We learn later when Will's talking to him that he has a tan line where a ring should be, so he's married, it seems. He takes pills that can block psychelium. Sense8 births pass along sensory memories. So all the Sense8s have some of Angelica's memories. And we see more of Angelica in this. There are other hunters besides Whispers.
Oh.
And this was not Angelica's first cluster.
Oh.
That's all. And we learn all that information. So what did you think of the lore stuff, Jonas, the Whisper stuff? It's kind of sprinkled throughout the episode.
Like on one hand, it advances nothing. And on the other hand, it feels like it's going to all be crucial for season 2. Like, I really, really want season 2 to show us other clusters, to show us more about Angelica and Jonas. We saw the site of their first date. And I was like, oh, nice. Angelica and Jonas are characters. Oh, and that's gone now. And I wanted a little bit more of that. And I think that, like, yeah, all of this lore stuff is building a season 2 that I'm starting to be interested in, like, sincerely. So I think it works for me in terms of, like, setting something else up. In this episode, it's, like, feels perfunctory, but, you have to say all this at some point. So I was into it, believe it or not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not bad. It's just whatever. It's lore.
Yeah. I think now that Whispers is more of a talking character who is creeping us out, I like it more because we start to get that like JMS style cat and mouse interrogation scene stuff that reminded me of some of the best versions of that from Babylon 5. So I was into that stuff, and I thought it was a nice tonal counterbalance to, woo, it's a party, yes, let's go, kind of stuff.
Totally. Yeah, I also wanted to bring up there's just a couple of like Wolfgang Felix things. It makes me happy to see Wolfgang and Felix again. I did fall for the fake out where Felix is like, I'm back here where I got shot and I think it's time to hang up the belt. And it's like, damn, really? And he's like, no, it's not time to do that, actually. Fully fell for it. Fully egg on my face.
Yeah. There's also that moment where someone pulls up to them in a car or something and Felix is like, don't worry, I can't get shot again. That would be terrible plotting. And then in the fight scene, he's on the ground and someone almost shoots him, and I fell for that. And I was like, no, they're going to... I fell for it. That would be terrible plotting.
Yeah, it would be.
Damn.
And then when Wolfgang is like dealing with that, and then he goes out into the snow, and Kala's like, I've never seen snow before. And they have this wonderful romantic like snowball fight. Of course, This was the moment of the week that my roommate called out before it happened. 2 hot girls walk by with Felix, and they're like, huh? And he's like, stop. He's like throwing snowballs at nothing. And Felix, instead of judging him, goes like, what are you on and where can I get some? So cartoonish and good.
Yeah.
Siri just heard the last like 15 minutes of me talking. That's really impressive. Thank you, Siri. My last big hits, Hallelujah, the use of the song Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, the cover, but from Daniel Martin Moore. And all the Christmas gifts. It's so saccharine and gooey and sweet. Wolfgang got Felix 2 deluxe luxury condoms. Cute. And Cassius watching It's a Wonderful Life with his mom. I melted. This is the Christmas episode I wanted, is this exact scene and nothing else. Are you a Christmas guy? Are you like a Christmas special, like Christmas movies kind of guy? I guess I don't know if I've asked you this precisely.
That's a good question. I think I like holidays. I like when parts of the year are just a certain kind of thing, just because that's what we do. And so I appreciated that about this episode, that it seems so interested in occasion and ceremony and the ways that we try to make things special, but also how sometimes those days kind of blend together or feel like they rush by us. I do like Christmassy stuff because it's its own thing. Like there's not another month, well, October. I was going to say there's not another month that has its own genre of movie, but there's not another month
those are the 2.
Right, those are the 2, which is like it's a fun thing. So sure, I'll watch some Christmas stuff. I think there are certain Christmas things that I'm like, nah. Like I'm not really a Love Actually
Oh
fan.
God, Love Actually is not that good. Oy.
I don't think that movie's that great. I have long since lost my nostalgia for like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer claymation type stuff that I used to love as a kid. But I was looking forward to this episode being more Christmassy, and then it was just not at all, which was a little like, wait, this is the Christmas special?
Right.
Well, when it hit their birthday in August, I was like, is this what it means by Happy New Year? That their birthday is the New Year? But there's like another hour and a half. Are we going to go all the way to actual New Year's? And then we did.
We do, yeah. No, it's really not a Christmas. That's why I think that's part of why they made it season 2, episode 1. Is it's not enough of a Christmas special in the style of like the cartoons you watched as a kid, or Doctor Who, or like any major show that has a notable Christmas special. It's like about the themes of Christmas, and this is not that. And when it is Christmas, it's aesthetic and only. There is some points about ceremony, holidays, why we celebrate, how we can put aside our differences. There's a part where, Riley's like, oh, Whispers isn't going to come to us. He has a family. And thusly, people with families would never hurt others on a holiday. They're too busy. And it's like, well, actually, the show isn't like that. And people aren't like that. Sorry. But it ties back into, like, Christmas is the most, in its corporate sense, it's the most earnest holiday. American holiday, sorry. And I think that the show is always attempting to vouch for earnestness as like a good method of living. So it makes sense that like at our key plot turning point, we're going to use Christmas as a plot, as a moment in time. I mean, like I get why you put Christmas here, but just like I wanted to see more. I want to see a little bit more Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sap for Christmas, for what it's worth. Just to answer the question myself, I love that shit. I eat it up.
Yeah.
Last note here, the line where the creepy guy that Wolfgang and Felix now work for invites them to a cool rooftop New Year's Eve party. Fascinating bit of like the themes are written in big red letters. They're on a high building and Felix is like, everyone else down there sucks. And he goes, when I was like working my way up in Germany, people always talked about West and East Berlin or whatever. And the truth is, the difference between people isn't East and West. It's vertical. And I was like, huh? And then I turned to my room and I go, oh, class warfare. Oh, shit. And like, that's nothing. Like, that's actually none of the show is about that.
Right. Right. It's such a weird, random thing for this guy to say. And he kind of has this facial expression of,
I said the thing. Huh.
I'll see you later, I guess.
Like, what?
Like, who are you? The Wolfgang plot is a little weird because that guy does this whole kind of thumb on the scale, I'm a tough guy, I'm going to intimidate you thing. And it feels like he's going to, kill our guys. But then he just invites them to hang out with him. And they're like, okay, sure. I will say my MVP award for this episode, I'm starting and ending the MVP awards on this episode of Chats today. He gets the MVP award because he has quite possibly the best character actor reaction shot I've ever seen, where he's in close up and Wolfgang's like, if I wanted the whole city, I would have taken it by now or something like that. And we're looking at the guy and he kind of like, jerks his mouth to the side and cocks his head, blows all the smoke out of the side of his mouth and like kind of rubs his head and shakes it like, ugh. It's just like such a good reaction shot. And I'm going to find the timestamp for it right now so that you can see it for yourself.
Beautiful.
So you can see it for yourself. But I was like, damn, this guy really had 5 seconds of camera time just now that he did not waste whatsoever.
You understood the assignment.
Yeah.
We did the news.
Yeah, we did the news. Any other moments from the episode that you want to talk about?
Bug has a t-shirt that says superlative conspiracy, which is fun to say. That's all I got.
That is fun to say.
You want to re-rank? Oh, wait, do you have any other spares?
This show looks so much better on my computer than on my cell phone.
Bro,
wow.
I was going to ask you, with the orgy scene, did you watch that on the train or what? It's like the most orgy-ass orgy scene so far.
No, I was like brushing my teeth, getting ready for bed, and then they started having an orgy, and I was like, okay.
All right, I should go to bed.
Yeah.
4K, baby. The show looks incredible, top to bottom.
4K, wow.
Well, yeah, we got the big TV. I actually don't know if it broadcasts in 4K. Probably not. Probably 1080, but we have a 4K TV, so the visual quality is really good. You can see Whisper's big beard and crispy graphic.
I'm still trying to find this guy's reaction shot. Where are you? Almost there. Yeah, we're talking to all our bad guys. Okay, here we go. Lito's looking at Twitter. Wow, look at that old Twitter logo.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's like watching my career blow up in real time.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Lito.
Yeah, okay. He says, you and I could own this city. Wolfgang says, if I was interested, it'd already be mine. Okay, then we cut to the close-up of the guy at about 35 minutes and 42 seconds left, and he's putting the cigar in his mouth.
35:42 left?
Yeah, remaining. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, you just do that.
Oh, will Netflix not show up if I do it?
Oh, you have to turn off thingy. Probably.
Can you see it?
I can see it.
Okay.
You must have turned off your hardware acceleration at some point. Okay. Ooh.
Doesn't he do a really good job?
He's doing smoke tricks over here. Volker. Okay, Volker.
He goes through like 3 different emotions and does little smoke tricks.
That actor.
It's such a good reaction shot. I love it.
I'll try and pull a clip for people or something later if you can't find it. But
I don't even know if that's I mean, if someone could make a GIF of that,
yeah,
I think that would
Nick,
be an
please.
amazing meme format.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you. That whole scene's absurd. Volker's just got good outfits. That's all I have to say about him. He's vibes. I think we're going to see more of him being vibes.
Volker is vibes. I have just a couple quick hits.
Hit them quickly.
Then I'm done. Yeah, it was kind of weird that the Van Damme is back. I don't know. And then people being like, the spirit of Van Damme, I love him. I don't know. That all felt like a very kind of back to square one plot. Yep. But it was nice to see Jella happy. So that was good. Rajan breaking his dick. It's only a sprain. Well, that's good. That's good news. The whole bit where they changed the codes on Leto's apartment and then everything was gone was a lot. But I really thought it was funny when Leto's like about to try to body slam the glass door and Hernando can tell, and the way that Hernando tries to stop it is he just goes, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" Like he doesn't really intervene in a useful way. He's just panicking like, oh my God, you're about to do something really dumb. What is it?
Also in that scene when he calls the like landlord or whatever, and he's like, "You're supposed to be the good guy." If you keep listening to the background, Leto and Hernando keep going like, "I thought he was a good guy. He was the good guy." No, isn't he? You're telling me he's the good guy. He was formerly the good guy. He's not the good guy anymore. He sucks. It goes for a while.
Must have been ad-libbed.
I think so, yeah.
Danny has this weird line where all Leto's stuff is gone and she says, "This is Mexico. The sad thing is I've seen worse."
Yep.
Like,
What are you
you're
doing?
not allowed to write that
Nope.
in your show. Stop that. I really like Felix has the line, "I know I said it was our revolution. I forgot in revolutions that people get shot."
Yeah.
Funny.
Funny.
Funny. Yeah. When Kala and Rajan are looking at their new place and there's a pool, I wrote, "No, Kala, don't get a pool. Wolf King loves pools." Oh my God, the beginning of the episode, we didn't talk about this, but when they're all floating in the water and it's showing you like where they're at right now, that's a pretty good sequence.
It really is. Everyone's really hot. That was my notes there. I was just like, okay, where are we in Sense8? Wow, naked bodies. Whoa, beautiful. Swimming. Whoa, swimming. I didn't have much about it, but it's like they filmed that. They like put a bunch of people in a fucking big pool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool sequence.
And it's what's the song? Feeling Good. It was cool.
Yeah.
It's good use of that song.
Yeah.
I like slow motion pool stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. And the lyric, it's a new dawn, it's a new day. Boom, we're doing this
Season 2,
all
baby.
this stuff, doing drugs now. What a great way to start the season.
Agreed.
I wrote down, you have to hope Whispers isn't good at GeoGuessr.
I laughed
that's essentially
so hard
the
when
game we're playing.
I fucking cracked up at your note, dude.
You bolded it, so I felt like I had to read it out loud.
That's amazing, because I'm imagining that guy on TikTok who's like a god at GeoGuessr. Like, he sees like what I'm talking about? There's like a guy on GeoGuessr who can like solve stuff in a millisecond. And he's like, "Yep, red rock."
You do not want him hunting for the BPO. You're
You're dead
sure.
in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't even consider the comedy of that.
Yeah. And then the last thing is just to me, what's really unique about this episode and I like the most is Rajan has this line where he's thinking about the year that has transpired and what if this had happened or that had happened, what would have been different? And he says how fast everything can change. And it's just a really interesting thing to say so close to the end of an episode where things have changed a lot, but not that much, Like there's this kind of duality to this that I think is really fascinating. When you zoom out enough from your life, it feels very eventful, but also feels very recursive. And how that's like to me, a very engaging tension that this episode is able to capture.
Well said. Depends on how you look at it, how much you've actually changed meaningfully.
Right.
Do you want to rank the Sense8s?
Let's do it. So our previous ranking, as of episode 4. That's the last time we ranked?
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. Capheus number 1, Kala number 2, Nomi number 3, Leto number 4, Sun number 5, Wolfgang number 6, Riley number 7, and Will number 8. Okay, so why don't we just do this King of the Hill style and go down?
Yeah, start
go
from the
from
top
bottom
and
to
tell me
top?
who goes up. Yeah.
Okay, so Capheus versus Kala. Is that still Capheus above Kala?
No, above as of
I
this
don't
plot,
think
I think Kala
so.
takes it finally.
I think so too. So let's bring Kala to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to separate
I love it when a wife
list
guy
a
breaks
little
his dick. What can I say?
I laughed out loud
Same.
when he fucking snaps his
Oh, ooh.
Oh my god. Okay, Nomi. Does Nomi go above Kala, in between, or below Capheus?
I think she goes just barely above Capheus.
I think so too. I think there just wasn't enough that was like new here.
Yeah.
For me. I did like the Nomi Sun scene where Sun watches her brother's interview and everyone's like, oh, is she going to break the computer again? And then she
hits the
food
Chinese food,
to
yeah.
take out. Yeah. That was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Leto. Where does Leto land for you?
Better than Nomi. Not as good as Kala.
Yeah, that sounds right. Sun? I feel like Sun is going to climb the ranks this week.
Yeah, she's doing great. She's
Sun
so
got
fun.
cool.
She might be better than Leto.
I agree.
Yeah. I did like seeing Leto's mom. I hope I see the actress more. I think she's like
Me
a
too.
famous Mexican actress, actually. Like, I looked her up.
I believe it. Wolfgang. Interesting. I like Wolfgang a lot more nowadays. I don't like the Berlin
Yeah, the kingdoms.
stuff. Like, that's dumb to me. But I like him. I like how he's kind of sad about Kala. I like that he's hanging out with Felix again. So I'm torn. I think he goes somewhere in the middle.
Below Nomi, above Capheus.
Yeah, that works.
And then our last two, Riley and Will, I just think you switch these.
Yeah, I think that, and they stay at the bottom.
Yeah.
I liked their relationship a lot more this time than I have. I like them hanging out and being cute together.
Mm-hmm.
But give Riley something to do in the episode.
And not just give her someone to do, but give her something to do, yeah.
Yeah. She like doesn't do much of
Except Will.
anything.
Sorry, I'll stop.
Except Will. She shaves Will's beard once.
And then he gets it
grows
back in like 5 minutes. Well, I guess months passed, but like, come on.
Yeah. She also is helping him a lot and keeping them alive. Like, she is doing a lot of
She's
work.
speaking Dutch to a drug dealer who's giving them more heroin and Narcan. Thank you for actually pointing out that they should have Narcan handy. That's really responsible of the show.
What does that do?
Narcan can prevent an overdose. Or it can reverse the effects of an overdose, rather.
Oh, okay.
It's like an emergency supply that if you're somebody who does a lot of drugs, you should absolutely have Narcan handy. That's my PSA for you.
Gotcha.
I'm just saying to John, in case you ever get into like really hard drugs. I don't know your life. That brings us to a top 8. Kala, Sun, Leto, Nomi, Wolfgang, Capheus, Will, and Riley. And those rankings will continue to shake up as we re-rank the Sense8s down the line before the end of the series. That brings us to the close for now, Magellan. I'm going to, if you don't mind, tell you what we're watching next week on Chatz8.
Let's do it.
We're beginning our real deep dive into Season 2 of Sense8 now, folks, with Season 2, Episode 2, Who Am I? Will and Whispers each race to piece together the other's location, while Leto heads to his first movie premiere since the photos leaked. Ooh, crunchy. Okay. We're also watching Season 2, Episode 3, Obligate Mutualisms. Great title. Can't wait to find out what lore bullshit that means. The Sense8s make contact with a key figure in BPO. Ripped from her prison cell, Sun sends out a plea for help, and Wolfgang meets an intriguing stranger. This is one of the highest rated. These like 2 episodes in a row are like really highly rated on IMDb for some reason.
Okay.
Not the highest, but Yeah, let's find out why next time. Madge, before we go, I want to know where people can find you on the internet.
An obligate mutualism is when two organisms are in such close proximity and interdependent such that one can't survive without the other.
Cute.
It's like a scientific term.
It's like
just looked it up.
boyfriend and boyfriend. Go ahead.
Yeah, boyfriend. You can find me on another podcast called Super Smash Echoes. It's a video game podcast that I host with my friend Justin. We play video games related to the Super Smash Brothers franchise, Super Smash Echoes. Check it out. Alan, what about you?
The Hunter's Quorum. The Monsters Quorum is probably going to be the rename soon. It's a podcast on scanlinemedia.com.
Oh, that's a good splitting the difference. I like that.
Yeah, we were like, God, we really screwed ourselves. What are we going to do? And I was like, Six, what about the Monsters Quorum? And they were like, fuck.
That's great. Because then you could do other monster content.
Bing bong, we can finally do Monster Rancher. Oh.
You could do all the Godzilla monsters.
Exactly.
Oh, what a nice name. You can do the Monster Masters. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not official yet, but right now it's on feeds as the Hunter's Quorum / the Johto Quorum. And it's a podcast where my friend Six and I talk about monsters, both from Pokemon and the Monster Hunter video games. We're going to be recording an episode soon about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I have a lot of thoughts on, mainly positive. You may be surprised. And that can be found at scanlinemedia.com. My other main gig is an every other month podcast called Talking Marketing, which can be found at amaboston.org. That's a podcast that I run for my volunteer job, where I interview marketing professionals about their craft in a easy and accessible and fun, engaging, conversational way. So check that shit out, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. That brings us to our plug zone for chats. Folks, I can take this one, Meg, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
If you have questions, comments, or concerns, our email is chatspod@gmail.com. All instances of chatspod are CHATZPOD. Our Twitter, while Twitter still exists, we don't know the status of Twitter. It's at Chatspod for now, and we'll move to other places as needed. We have a lot of that username is squatted in many places. Our community-run subreddit is r/Chatspod. It's been a little bit inactive recently, but we want to get back to listening to old Chats episodes sooner than later when our community has the bandwidth to do that. No rush, literally whatsoever. If you like this show and you want to support us, we have a couple ways you can do that. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and if you put a rating in there, give us a star rating, write a review, we really appreciate that, and it'll help us get the word out there. And if you want to support us financially, we have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/chatspod. At $1, $3, and $5 a month, we have all sorts of fun tiers with bonus content galore from the last 4 years, as Magellan mentioned earlier. And if you back us at $5 or more, you get thanked at the end of each main feed episode of Chats. And those $5 patrons include Arthur, Jen, Justin, Kat, Lee, Magellan's mom, Marcus, Michael, Nick and Pat of the Brothers at Infinite War, Six, and Stefan. Thank you guys for supporting Chats. If you want to hear about all things Chats, that can be found all together at chatspod.com. And if you like our main feed podcast art, it's done by our friend Camilla, who can be found at Camillastrator on all of the social media platforms. And that's the last thing I got. Before we go, though, our final segment, very briefly, we're going to do Chatsums. This is where the hosts of Chats recommend you something to enjoy between now and next week. So, Magellan, you can go first. What is your Chatsum this week, bud?
Okay, yeah, my Chatsum is maybe it's kind of me specific, or it's specific to people who share a particular condition of mine, but I want to tell you about something that I did today. Okay. So I over the weekend. So I snore when I sleep pretty loudly and quite frequently. And
bit of a honk shoo me me me, sorry.
Bit of a honk shoo me me me. And my primary care physician at my annual checkup last year was like, "Oh, have you ever gotten tested for sleep apnea?" Finally got around to going to the pulmonologist and saying, "Hey, should I get checked out for this?" I got an at-home sleep test, and I obviously you can't do this unless you need it, but taking an at-home sleep test is really quite interesting. I had to like wrap a thing around my chest and put a thing in my nose and put a thing on my finger. And then I went to the doctor and I saw like the full readout of my whole night of sleep. Like what position I was lying in, and
oh, that's cool.
How well I was breathing at any given time. And now I'm going to get a CPAP machine for my sleep apnea because I don't get all the oxygen I need when I sleep.
Oops. That's cool, dude.
So that was something that was kind of cool. I would just say more broadly, like that appointment that you're putting off, which I do a lot because you're worried that somebody's going to give you some bad news. Sometimes it's kind of fun to get news that it's bad in a way, but you have a solution now or a definition for it, and you get to do something you've never done before. And isn't that kind of interesting? So
yeah, pro medicine.
That's my recommendation: is go schedule that appointment that you've been meaning to, because maybe there's a story in it somewhere.
Well said. You just made me smile. Thank you for saying
Thanks. Alan, what about you?
So this is actually a kind of a re-Chatz8 from all the way back in Chatz8 5 episode 12. Chatz8 512 Magellan Chatz8 till death do us splart, which is a podcast where the McElroy brothers and Guy and Tim from the Worst Idea of All Time podcast watch Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 every Thanksgiving. It's been running since 2016, I believe, 2015, I forget. And I listened to it this year, but I actually watched it along with their 2020 live commentary, which is
pretty fun. It's
just on YouTube. I wanted to pivot this to be a Chatz8 for the film Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I'm infamously really, I like most things that I watch and I consume. I try to find the good in them. I really disliked that movie. I thought it was really bad. It's like poorly conceived. It's got really funny moments despite it, but on a basic structural level, it sucks. It's an anti-Chatz8 for Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. It's not good.
Yeah, it's a bad movie.
And I feel bad for somebody who would make themselves suffer and watch it every year until they die. But it's a re-Chatz8 for Till Death Do Us Part because we haven't Chatz8 did in 4 years, and it's an anti-Chatz8 for Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I remember thinking the first movie was fine, but I was also a small baby when I watched it. Whatever, 2008.
Yeah, I also remember liking the first one.
Click was better.
Damn.
Bodied. Whew, that's what we got, folks. We're rolling right into Sense8 Season 2, starting with a bang with this Christmas special. And I want to say thank you, as always, to Magellan for being the rock to my hard place. I don't say that one enough, but that's the real, the core of what we do here at the little outro, is that you're the rock to my hard place. So thank you for that.
The little outro. Cute.
This little outro thing that we do. And thank you for being here and listening to this episode of Chatz8. Bye.
See ya.